Okay, let's go. Weekly reflections. I look forward to this so much. Okay, let me get into it. So, this is life game design. Life game design is a philosophy and framework for a fulfilling life, and this is built into another framework that I use to organize and understand the areas of life called special. And that's what we're looking at here. So, special is just like the Fallout series, where you have a set of attributes that you need to improve in order to basically like improve your character in a game. But the way I use special in real life is that I use it to help me database all my information and knowledge, but I also use it to understand where my time and attention is going. And each of these areas, while it looks like there's a lot, there's four core areas, which are pretty much kind of like health, wealth, and relationships. But this isn't just a productivity app. It's also it's a whole it's a holistic way to organize your whole life. So it's not just focused on productivity. It's also a place where you can keep your memories. It's a place where you can keep your memories of both experiences you have in terms of the stuff you're watching, the stuff you're doing with friends, and also for your close relationships. It's a place where you can do your journaling within Life Force. Life Force is about your mental health um, and managing that. And yeah, this literally does everything. I use it to organize my whole life all in one app. And with these weekly reflections, I go through my projects, tasks, and notes throughout the week to see what my highlights were and to see, yeah, where my time and attention was based on all of these different areas of special or attributes of special. So the first thing I do is always go into my project gallery and just see what I did throughout the week. And this is all chronological. So I can also see it in a view of the calendar. Um, But yeah, let's start off. This was week 46 out of 52. So let me click this button to create a new template for the weekly reflection. All right. And so what I'm going to do is I'll take everything from here and I'll just log it in here. So this is a kind of space for me just to put out my small and big wins for the week, and just kind of reflect on everything that I have in all these different tabs in terms of tasks and the notes that I've taken this week as well. So let's get to it. The first one is obviously the first time I went to. There's a place called the Yoga Loft in town that I went to. I've only done yoga once in my life, and with a friend on a YouTube video. But this time I actually went to like a proper class because my friend has been talking about it a lot. Um, I need to work on my stabilizing muscles because of my injuries, and I just wanted to put myself in an uncomfortable experience because as someone who just goes to the gym, I never expected myself to try anything like yoga. It was really uncomfortable trying to go into it at first. So it was a really good experience. I really actually liked the class. It was you pay $20. This is New Zealand dollars, and you get to do an hour of yoga class, and you also get like a buffet feast. It's crazy. It's crazy. I actually think I'd go again sometime soon. And it was really fun because it was so challenging. It's so humbling when I'm doing like these stretch positions and this lady who's instructing the class is just chilling and I'm shaking like crazy. That was actually so funny. That was so hilarious. The other thing that happened this week was to do with Life Force. Life Force is your mental health, and that kind of encompasses things like meditation, self reflections, and journaling. And one of the biggest things that I just understood while I was meditating, these thoughts came up in my head, and I kind of pieced together the pattern of my previous attractions based on my insecurities. Basically, fuck, this is hard. I understood the pattern of my previous attractions that were based on insecurity. Yeah. Should I go into depth? Should I go into depth? Maybe next time. I'm gonna talk about that with my close friends. Because this weekly reflection is something I do with my boys, Derek and Joseph, who are part of the group. And I feel like because this happened so recently, I need to talk through it with them before I just share it everywhere on the internet. So you might be hearing about that next week once I make more sense out of it by running it through them. The LGD based education draft posts. So Life Game Design is LGD, and I just went on Instagram and I made like a whole bunch of posts that's kind of related to this thing here. But I spent about I spent 3 days taking all of the frameworks that I've developed around life game design and the special framework, how the special framework is integrated with a framework for fulfillment, because the whole reason I created special is to create a more fulfilling life for myself. So this system isn't just about productivity. And it's designed in the same way that a game developer would design someone's life. That's my intention with it. I'm not a game developer myself, but I have played a hell of a lot of games and studied their development and the techniques they use. But yeah, I spent 2 to 3 days basically managing all my thoughts, putting them all into one place, and then when I was writing the scripts for the YouTube videos I'm gonna make on a series of the education that I'm gonna do on life game design soon, it was just so much more easier. So this actually helped me so much. I learned from the 7 habits of highly effective people that one of the best habits is to quote unquote sharpen the saw. And when I managed all of my thoughts and had to distill them and write them out into digestible pieces of content, it really sharpened my ability to take those distilled pieces of knowledge and apply it to all the different other areas that I want to share it in. So in terms of creativity, that was a massive highlight. And I guess I'll do the other. Wait, why is that going there? There we go. I'll do the other one real quick while we're at it. I created a whole bunch of Instagram posts. So I discovered how to do seamless carousel posts in Canva. And then I realized because of the pin posts in Instagram, you can actually make yourself a seamless carousel of your pinned posts on Instagram, which is really cool. So let me go to my own page and you'll see it. I want to show you. It's so cool. So you can see here it's like seamlessly connected. And these are the 3 fundamental things that you kind of need to go through in order to understand what the hell life game design is, what the hell special attributes are, and then understand how I've packaged it into an actionable framework, which is my Notion template, which we're using right now. Because this special framework, it's a lot to remember, but at the same time, there's a lot of different areas of life, and that's also hard to remember. So to make it easier for me, I built it into a template so I don't really have to worry about remembering all these different things. I can just use it, and by the use of it and by the color coding of it, I kind of intuitively understand all the different areas, and it just helps me manage it so much better, because I used to have 5 different apps to try and manage all of these different areas of life, and because I couldn't see it all at once, it meant that if I made a lot of progress in work projects, but I was looking at my notes, because it was separated, I didn't really have the sense that I was making progress. And then I had my memories on my Instagram, and so because it was so separated, it's really hard to see a top-down view of your whole life and where you're spending your time and attention on each area of life. So yeah, I made these posts here, all seamless in Canva. You can't do seamless scrolling on computer. But I guess this is the easiest one here. This is just an introduction to the special framework, which is kind of like movie posters. I don't know, like album cover posters. I don't know. I was like kind of going for that vibe. So you can learn about the different areas and what they mean, and it goes deeper within the post itself. So yeah, I spent 3 days collating the information to do this, and then I spent 2 days making these actual posts because I made them all seamless posts and all really detailed but also very distilled. So if anyone ever goes to my Instagram page at Life Game Design, then yeah, they can go through 1, 2, 3, start, learn, and play. So I'm so proud of that. I'm so proud of that. That was so sick. That was so fun to make as well. Um, so I'll chuck that in there. Mad stuff, mad stuff. And then going back to experience, my friend Camilla, she introduced me to a dude named Eden, and he's such a humble, awesome dude. I'm 26, he's 21, and he's been reading a lot of books on self-improvement. He's been making TikToks to try and help other guys improve themselves, with things like habits, with things like uh, understanding their own purpose in life and things like that. And with all the frameworks that I've developed with my experience, I was able to kind of test them out with him because I know that the philosophy of life game design, designing my own life in the same way that a game developer would design a game so it's as fulfilling as possible. I know that that works for me, and also the special framework works for me to understand the areas of life, but I need to know if it works for other people. And when I asked him to articulate where he was focusing on his life, it was pretty hard for him to kind of explain what area of life was what area of life he was focusing on, but more importantly, where how he understood the balance between focusing on one area compared to another. And so if you don't have a system to understand life, it's very hard to track how your life is going, basically. Because I think the number one way that we track how our life is going these days is probably Instagram. Like if you like if you don't have anything to show on your Instagram, it's probably like, oh, you're probably not living that fun of a life. I think people have that subconscious thought. It's not something we consciously think. But yeah, having something like this, which allows me to understand and articulate, organize, and optimize every area of my life, makes it so much easier when I'm in a conversation and I say, yeah, I've been working on my strength this past few months, but I'm leaving on maintenance because I want to work more on my creativity, which is life game design. And so I see from this top-down view the balance between how I can only have a limited amount of time and energy put into all of these different things. So that means either I'm going to put some areas of special on maintenance and focus all my attention on one, two, or three areas at a time. That's the main lesson within the seminal book called Essentialism from Greg McKeown, in which if I tried to actively improve all of these areas at once, I would barely get anywhere. And I kind of analogize it to learning how to ride a bike for the first time, in that it may take you a month of really dedicated practice to riding a bike, in which there's a lot of other things that you were doing with your life that you had to put on hold in order for you to put that time and attention into riding a bike. But after you learned how to do it, maintaining the skill of riding a bike no longer took that much time and effort. Actually, I have a whimsical diagram I want to show you that really puts this concept and visualizes it, so it's quite easy to understand. Special. Okay, where we at? Here it is. So this is what I meant about essentialism with Greg McKeown, in that these are the different areas of special. My focus can only go so far, trying to do them all at the same time. But if I choose 1 to 3, ideally no more than 3, because then it just ends up being like this again, then I can skyrocket my improvement. And with that in mind, what I just previously said about learning a new skill, the effort it takes for you to learn a new skill is so insane, but this increases your baseline of that skill after you've put in the effort. So like I said, riding a bike, put all of this effort in, and then finally when you get proficiency around 2 to 3 months, you get a new baseline, whereas your default baseline was practically nothing. And once you have that skill, that baseline is now over here. And so the effort you have to exert to maintain that skill is very minimal. And so when I think about those two concepts combined with essentialism, basically I can focus on areas like strength, creativity, and intelligence for a season of my life, and then swap those out with other things. Like I can focus more on spending time with my family, I can focus more time on doing more self-reflection, and those things. So I can swap out the different seasons of my life whenever I feel the need to focus on a certain thing. Like at the moment, there are things that I can't ignore. Like at the moment, I have a shoulder injury. So that's something that I'm focusing a lot of attention on, so that every other area of my life isn't bottlenecked by this shoulder injury. So that's what essentialism looks like within life game design. So there's a lot of concepts and frameworks from books and podcasts that I've built into this template. I'm gonna make a list of them later on for you guys to see. But I think one of the best things about having an actionable framework of a philosophy is that while it's really cool to talk about these ideas in an ephemeral manner, what actually helps us is being able to action them without even having to think of the framework that we're using, and just being able to utilize it. And that's pretty much the goal with the special framework in general. I don't want to have to remember all these different names. I just want to be able to use it to organize the different areas of my life. So yeah, and I read, in terms of the last project highlight, I read the book When the Body Says No by Gabor Mate, and it's very similar if you've heard the concept of the body keeps score, in which physiological problems can erupt from psychological, I wouldn't say traumas, but yeah, psychological effects. I'm trying to avoid the word trauma so much, because trauma sounds like it has to be something extremely negative, but it more exists within a spectrum, as the masters of the literature write, especially within um, Bessel van der Kolk's own book, The Body Keeps Score, and this book as well, When the Body Says No. So contribution for me, that's kind of out of the picture because I quit my job to focus all my attention on this. So I'm living off my savings at the moment. So I'm gonna keep that out for now. But essentially, once I'm able to earn enough to pay my living expenses, this creativity of the life game design system will become my contribution. And something, I'm going to relate that to the notes I took, something that helped me understand why those two need to be separate, creativity and contribution, is the over-justification effect. And essentially, the over-justification effect is when you get paid for something and you don't actually enjoy it as much. So let's say you have a creative thing that turned into a contribution for you. You started to get paid for it. The reason why is because of this theory of the over-justification effect, which was, let's see who made it. It was a doctor, I bet. Dr. Robert Eisenberger, a professor of psychology. Yeah. There it was. So the story is the students were tested in their reading capabilities. Baseline capabilities were first measured to be able to judge how students were performing during the experiment. And during the experiment, one group, called the accuracy group, received tokens that they could exchange for toys when they read aloud with fewer errors. Another group, called the speed group, received tokens when they read more quickly. The control group received tokens regardless of their accuracy or speed. After the reading tasks, students performed drawing and story construction tasks. Eisenberg found that students who had been rewarded for specific skills in reading, either speed or accuracy, were faster or more accurate, respectively, in the following drawing and story construction tasks. The students in the control group who had been rewarded for completing a task rather than for performing it were both slower and less accurate. And so this means that the over-justification effect occurs for children with learning disabilities only when the reward is not linked to the student's effort and performance. When the reward is tied to a specific skill, completing a task successfully, it acts as a reinforcement of that skill instead of diminishing the intrinsic motivation. So basically, this summary is that it's a phenomenon. It's a phenomenon. Wow, phenomenon. Nice. Where we lose intrinsic motivation to complete an activity that we used to enjoy it for itself after a reward, such as prize money, or is given to us for completing the activity. And so the reward in this case would be getting paid for something that you previously had a passion for. This is not a conscious mechanism that happens. It's not like when you get paid, you consciously think, oh, I don't enjoy this as much. It's more on a subconscious level. So that means we have to be a lot more careful when we go into a passion project and we discover that we can generate income from it, which is why I created the separation of creativity and contribution. Dun-dun-dun. So attachment. I actually did deep work with Joseph to this yesterday. That's when it was. It was yesterday. So let me actually fill that in. So Joseph is my brother. We're both working on apps together in deep work sessions, and every time we do it, we literally just help each other. So we have our deep work session, and so it's like Pomodoro kind of thing, but we do an hour. After the hour, we explain what we got done and show each other. We share our screens on Discord, um, and by listening to each other and then kind of critiquing each other or being a soundboard for each other's ideas, we've like skyrocketed our skyrocketed our performance for each other. So there's days where Joseph's really stuck on something, and I'll ask him I have no idea about the coding he's doing on his program, but I'll just ask him questions so I can understand. But through him trying to explain to me, he then figures out what he needs to do. And the same goes for me because he doesn't know the in-depth about life game design and the special framework. And by asking me questions, it forces me to articulate it in a way that he understands, so I actually understand it on a deeper level. This is basically the Feynman technique in practice. The Feynman technique is uh, the technique pioneered by, I believe it's Richard Feynman, the scientist, in which every concept he made, he would test his understanding of it by being able to explain it to a 5-year-old, basically. And if he couldn't, that means he would have to go back and reevaluate his understanding. So if he could not distill his knowledge, then his knowledge was of no use. So I think that's the biggest benefit that I find uh, with us working together in that way. Persistence, life routines, and housework. Basically, persistence is about your habits and the maintenance of all your possessions. So your habits, obviously, um, based on Atomic Habits and basic things like within Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life is like make your bed. Um, a lot of people don't actually articulate this area of life. They all, or they call it habits, and they keep things like house maintenance and car maintenance and all those things. They will have them all under separate areas where I umbrella them under one category. Makes it easier to understand that maintenance is a really important factor of elevating your potential in life and elevating your experience of life as well. So for me, one of the biggest things that I do to help me save time is meal prep. I spend 1 hour, I spend 2 hours every week separated into 1 hour and 1 hour to do meal prep, and that saves me from cooking every single day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then also in terms of persistence, it's about maintaining your items. So at the moment, my ultra wide monitor is broken. It just conked out itself, so I had to hand that in. So I'm glad I finally actually got it fixed because I was putting off like canning it in for the warranty because I wasn't sure. But I just got it done. So now it's just a waiting game. And strength. So I still have the shoulder injury. I'm just gonna write that down. I'm just gonna say that basically it's my stabilizing muscles are really weak, and on only on one side. On my left side, it's fine. On my right side, there's an imbalance, and so when I try to do a heavier weight, other muscles will overcompensate, and they end up getting really tight. Um, and so I went to physio for like a whole year to try and solve this problem. It didn't get solved, even though I rigorously did all the protocols. Um, so yeah, it's been really difficult. I've got to say, it's been really difficult. Um, dealing with that. So yeah, I'm just gonna have to. Fuck, I might just have to take it easier at the gym, which I really don't like to do because I like pushing myself. Um, but I guess in terms of like positives for the week, in terms of strength, I'm just really glad that I kept my consistency. This is the morning. I've got to go to the gym straight after doing this, but I hit it like every single day, which I'm really proud of. Cool. Okay. So the first part of the reflection that I always do is kind of taking a log of all the positive things. And if I want to think of anything else that I might be missing, I'm just going to go through any other tasks. Actually, I guess meditation being on point for the whole week is really good. So it's here, there. And I'm gonna do it. I usually do my meditation straight after my workout at the gym, just as a way for me to cool down. Um, so that's really nice. So and I really notice it, especially when I don't do it, I really notice the difference in my focus, my energy, attention, and my overall state of being content and my fulfillment. If I don't meditate, it feels like the day was so rushed that I didn't even have a chance to just literally just sit and breathe. Um, and before I started meditation, I had no idea I had that problem. Da da da. Oh, I also fixed my watch. So I got a new watch strap. It's like a stainless steel buckle, and instead before I had this really, it's over here. I had this really shitty nylon buckle that always got like really dirty and gross. But now that it's stainless steel, like I can just wash the hell out of it quite easily. So again, that's another thing to do with persistence, something that's not really focused on within productivity management apps, but a very important area of life to get those 1% improvements, just like Atomic Habits uh, encourages. Is there anything else? Yes, I wanted to go into my notes because I listened to a really cool podcast from Diary of a CEO from his conversation with a lady called Tali Sharot. And Tali Sharot is a researcher in habituation, also known as, I guess, hedonic adaptation, in which we get too used to the stimuli that we are exposed to every day, whether they're good or bad. So this looks like taking things for granted, especially both the good things and the bad things. So just the fact that I can do this live stream and reach, well, with this live stream in particular, I'm not reaching a lot of people, but I have the opportunity to reach a lot of people with all of the content that I create is is an opportunity that people 100 years ago just didn't have. But because because it's such a constant in my life, it's something that I don't actually show gratitude for day to day because of the effect of habituation. And the same thing in a negative way with habituation is that I've had this shoulder injury for so long that I'm almost adapting my life to having a shoulder injury, which is a bad thing, a bad form of habituation. So in the podcast episode, Tally Sharrett kind of explains how this effect of habituation can work for us and also work against us, um, in the different modalities of how it's applied to our lives. And that was just really interesting to listen to, especially in terms of her research that she's done on it. So the first thing I ask myself after I've done a highlight on all the good stuff that happened is what lessons did I learn from things that didn't go quite right? And honestly, at the start of the week, because I was working so much on distilling all my knowledge uh, within these posts, and because I wasn't actually producing anything at the time, I felt like I was kind of going nowhere. I was like spinning at the wheels. But once I used this to make these posts, and now that I'm writing the script of my video that I'm going to release soon about just the philosophy of life game design, just that being so much easier, really, I thought it was something that I kind of wasted my time on, but I realized how beneficial it was. So yeah, that was sick. That was real sick. Uh, so what lessons I learned from things that didn't go quite right? Honestly, I can't think of much, which is really good. So whenever the boys, when we get to these questions, and there's weeks where we can't even think of something that didn't go quite right, like that's so good. That's so good. That means we're really on the right path. So nothing nothing huge. There's obviously going to be smaller things. And let me think about the smaller things. probably... Fuck, this is hard, which is a good thing. I could have got more sleep. I'll just say that. I can always get more sleep. So how well did I stick to my plan and stay focused? This was actually okay, now I remember. At the start of the week it was so at the start of the week I'll just tell you and record it into here at the same time. So there we go. At the start of the week, it was really hard for me to stay focused when I was assimilating all of my knowledge in terms of the frameworks that I use for special life game design, the fulfillment framework, and all those things. It was really hard to get it all cohesively distilled and shared within my thoughts, and it took me 2 whole days of both like 10-hour sprints of doing that. Well, they're not sprints, but you know what I mean. 10-hour work sessions, and a lot of that quote unquote work was just me trying to think how to piece all of this together and how to distill the information. So that was actually really hard, and because it was such a cognitively demanding task, I paused a lot and almost had like a bit of procrastination. I would sit at the desk, but I noticed whenever I hit a brick wall, I would subconsciously reach for my phone because that discomfort prompted me to find comfort in going to, I don't know, like scrolling Instagram or something. So how well did I stick to my plan and stay focused? Within that, I would say I did stick to my plan really well because I didn't. I just sat at the desk, even though I did like sometimes go on my phone. Uh I did stay there. I didn't like completely go off the rails or go off the track of my work. But yeah, in terms of focus, I definitely could have done better by just like not having my phone there, not allowing myself to have that distraction. And whenever I did have the distraction, it would be better if I just accepted, okay, I understand that I feel like I've hit a brick wall. Let me try and find something else that I have traction in instead of just feeling bad about the fact that I hit a brick wall at the moment. And then the last one is ending on a positive note. What inspired you this week? And actually, there's two things. Definitely that episode from Diary of a CEO with Tally Sharrett. But Eden, um, the guy I met up here at the gym, his story, I asked him. Well, he first of all, he gave me so much space because he was so humble. Even though he's on self-development, he knew that he could learn so much from me. So he told me after our conversation, he set an intention for himself to just listen. And it's almost like I was lecturing him for like 2 hours, even though he was asking me questions during the process. But he gave me a lot of space to tell him all of these new frameworks that I've learned from all the different books that I've read. And yeah, when I finally got to asking him about his childhood, he told me a lot about his core values, and it really inspired me. His story was really beautiful. He's never touched alcohol in his life, but he's always been around things like parties. He's never done any drugs, and I think like that is one of the most insanely resilient feats that you could ever have, especially in this time. And I just got a mad amount of respect for him, and it stemmed from his core value from a childhood experience that he told me about, which was really it was really touching. It was really touching, and it's really nice to meet someone for the first time and just get to that depth of knowing them on that level, instead of us just asking each other, "What's your favorite food? Oh, what's your favorite color?" Like that kind of stupid shit. I would rather know about their core memories. So the question I asked him is my favorite question from the Diary of a CEO, which he asked in many different ways, but it's what is a core memory from your childhood that would make me understand the person you are today? And yeah, that question helped me do exactly that. I understood exactly who he was because of those memories he shared with me. I am so glad with this text-to-speech thing. It's just making a paragraph for me without me even having to type. And I just talk. Okay, let's get into the cool part, realignment. What is the number one thing I need to accomplish next week? The number one thing I need to accomplish next week is doing, well, I have to help my parents move to New Plymouth. I always start with the things that I cannot ignore before I set my own goals. So helping mum and dad with the move. So that's first priority. And then after that is my own goal of um, finishing the scripts for the video series of life game design. What specific learning do I need to do for next week's tasks? I think I need to, in terms of learning, I don't think I need to do new learning for this because I have all the knowledge. It's more like I have to uh, assimilate a all my knowledge. Yeah, I just have to assimilate all my knowledge and spend time distilling it. What is a task that I can do that will make next week less stressful? Um, time block out the time block out the time I need to help mum and dad before setting my own goals. What is on my not to do list? This is a really interesting question that always comes up, that I built into this every time. Because on your not to do list is usually generally to do with the thing that didn't go quite right. So I want to have an intention of a deeper focus. So how would that transform into not to do? This means that not have my phone around when working. What will I replace this with? It's not something I need to replace, but I guess instead an intention of focus. What am I looking forward to for next week? Seriously, just going down to New Plymouth, um, meeting new people down there at the gym when I go. Um, what else have I got to look forward to for next week? Doing some more deep work with Joe. And yeah, I think that's it. I really have to watch the last episode of Attack on Titan got released, and I still haven't watched it because I've been spending too much time on this. So I either will do that today or I'll do it like tomorrow. So if it's something I'm looking forward to, it's definitely that, because that's like holy shit, 10 years of my life following Attack on Titan and that coming to an end. That's gonna be sick. And finally, last part before we wrap up for this weekly reflection. What am I grateful for? I think it's kind of what I said before in the fact that literally, let me text to speech this thing. Literally living in this time where I have the opportunity to fully flesh out this philosophy of life game design and also the special framework and have all the tools that I need to be able to do this. Because without Notion, I wouldn't have a database system to structure all of the different tasks, projects, areas of life, all these things. Without Notion, which only came out maybe 10 years ago, I'm not sure how old it is. Without that, I would never have been able to do this in a seamless way. I would have had to have, yeah, like 5 different apps to manage all these different things. But now I have the opportunity to create this system, which is so cool. Um, so I'm just grateful for the fact that, you know, the developers of Notion made this uh, for everyone to have their to make their own systems like this. God, that sounds like a sponsor. um, what else am I grateful for? I've had nasal breathing problems for the first. I'm 26, so I would say 24 years of my life, and it's finally gotten to a stage where I don't have to think about how bad my breathing is. And if you haven't had trouble with that before, there's no way that I could express to you how that feels on a day-to-day basis. So, man, even now, even now that my breathing is so much better, even now I take it for granted. So I just want to, yeah, take this time to really show some gratitude for that. And I think that's it. I think that's a really cool way to wrap it up. Oh, I love speech to text. Look at that. I don't even have to do anything. I just say what's on my mind. So yeah, that's the end of the Life Game Design Weekly Reflection. Um, maybe if you go to my Instagram, you'll be able to find uh, how I do this. And if you're interested in the whole, I guess, like overall philosophy of life game design, head over to my Instagram, hit me up, and I'd love to give you the system for free because we're still in the alpha testing stage. So I'm giving away the template that's pretty much fully working. I just need to make sure that the framework of special works for people in the same way that it does for me. So basically, I want to educate people on that and see how they use it and see how they use it to improve their lives. But anyways, that's a wrap. That's a wrap for Life Game Design.